What's up, Rams House? Welcome back into a brand new live stream in this case. And today we're going to be talking about Lance McCutcheon. As a guy who I want to call Lance McCutcheon just because of how much of those big plays that he's been able to make throughout the first preseason game. And this is a guy for me, honestly, who just came out of nowhere. I had no idea who Lance McCutcheon was. And then throughout the game, I literally got him confused for a tight end because I thought he was a tight end. And then just throughout the game, I was like, oh, shoot, I have to figure out who this Lance McCutcheon guy is. I had no idea who he was, but he was obviously showing out. And so I wanted to learn a little bit more about who he was, what type of play style he was, which we did get to see a little bit of a taste of, what type of player he was in that first preseason game. And so we're going to be discussing what he can do well, and we're going to be discussing all the different things I can see him having coming into this Rams offense, what he can do well for us. If I see him making it onto the roster, there's a lot of different interesting things when you're talking about a guy like him, especially coming into a deep wide receiver core. Where does he fit in? Is he going to make the roster? So I think that he's definitely a guy to keep your eye on throughout preseason, and he's a guy who just took everybody by surprise. We had no idea who he was. We had people like me talking about, okay, let's watch out for Tutu Atwell, let's watch out for Jacob Harris, all this, and a guy just comes out of nowhere and makes some big plays. So we'll be talking about today again. First, what he can do well, kind of his past in college, what he specializes in, things he needs to work on if he makes the roster, his role going forward with the Rams if he's going to make the team, all this and that. But before I get into that, let's get into the comments. As we have Dino Nuggies in the chat saying McClutch, that's for sure. I keep on almost calling him McClutcheon because of, he is clutch, and everybody in the comments continues to call him that. So if I trip up and call him McClutcheon, that's not my fault. He just kind of made his name for himself. We have him saying McCutcheon W, let's go Rams, must keep him. Definitely a guy to keep our eye on for sure, because there have been guys in the past in preseason who ball out for a game, ball out for 2 games, maybe even the entire preseason, but don't end up making the roster. So definitely want to keep my mind open. Hopefully he ends up making the team for sure. But there's still another 2 preseason games to be able to watch and see if he's able to continue that production. So don't want to just completely crown him as the best receiver in the league just yet, but definitely somebody to keep our eye on. Alberto Welch Jr., welcome to the stream. He says, hey, what's up, man? McCutcheon's better than Ben Skoranek. I mean, he definitely showed out a little bit more than Skoranek, but we'll see what the Rams end up doing. Let's see. Ben to special teams and McCutcheon in our starting lineup. I kind of like that, honestly, but we'll still see what McCutcheon ends up doing. I think the Rams actually did post some highlight clips from training camp, or not training camp, but from some practice today of him going up the ladder and catching a good one. Nathan says Bryce Perkins, the next Lamar Jackson. That would be awesome. And then JJ Fording Porcel Studios, welcome in. Just want to give this guy a shout out because on my watch party live stream, he did end up giving me a super chat. So thank you so much for that. JJ Fording Porcel Studios says, what's up, Rams house? What's up? How's it going, man? So let's get into a little bit of Lance McCutcheon and just kind of talking about what he can do, his past in college and all his measurables, all this and that. Because if you guys are just like me, you know that players, you just that he just ends up making all these crazy types of plays. So let's get in a little bit of what he is and what he specializes in. So for his height and weight, he is 6'3", 202 pounds, so not the biggest guy on the planet. He looks bigger on the field, honestly. And he played for Montana State University and was actually a really, really big standout for Montana State University. He was a guy who was really like a human highlight reel type of player, making a lot of those contested catches like we did see versus the Chargers. So that's just a little bit of his background. Played at Montana State University, 6'2", 6'3", 202 pounds. He just really did specialize in those contested types of catches, and he actually broke school records there and was named for the first team All Big Sky team. So that's actually pretty good for him. So he was that human highlight reel type of guy, was able to break records, was a big contributor for the team, which is what brought the Rams in to bring him in. And now as far as how he came onto the Rams, the Rams signed him as a 2022 UDFA, so he went undrafted. Rams just doing their thing, trying to find hidden gems. For me, the things that I see when I'm watching his film and then what I was able to see in that Chargers game, he's not a guy who specializes in route running, and he does not have the best speed. So those are things that he doesn't really bring to the table for the Los Angeles Rams. But I think something that has really brought Lance McCutcheon to this point is that ability to make those contested catches. I think something for him is Again, he's not the biggest guy. He's 6'3", 202 pounds. So, that's around average in that area, but he is a little bit bigger. But something that really separates him and is able to help generate those contested catches and those highlight reel plays is he has really, really long arms. So he's able to have a huge catch radius and position those arms to bring down the football. But another thing that I really noticed about McCutcheon when watching him is he not only had those long arms to be able to go up, make the catch, or contort his body, he was actually one of the smartest receivers as far as when the ball is in the air, 50-50 situation, or you're going deep, whatever, it's him. There's a defender draped all over him, or he's in double coverage. He's one of the smartest receivers at finding an open spot to be able to catch it when there's a guy draped over him, or making that just a little bit of adjustment to get outside and have a higher chance to be able to catch the football. So that is something that really stood out to me. And I think that's really what got him to this point is that athleticism, having those long arms to being able to have the physique to be able to do what he does. But I think he's actually a really, really smart receiver when it comes to positioning himself to come down with the ball. And that's something that really does go overlooked in the NFL and by these wide receivers and by fans who are watching is you really have to watch out for those players who are just smart or on another level as far as IQ goes, positioning themselves to make it that much easier to come down with the football. And he was very productive in that Chargers game. Caught five receptions for 87 yards, 2 touchdowns, had that 2-point conversion. Obviously, it was able to moss that Chargers defender. Both those Chargers defenders. Another thing I really noticed about him is he has a very good sense about him as being able to stay on his feet. He kind of runs low to the ground, so he's more compact. Again, he's not the fastest guy, but he's able to stay on his feet and break some tackles because he has a good center of gravity there. So again, for me, route running is something that you're really going to need to work on if he makes this team. And speed, you can't really work on, but you can work on quickness. Those are two different things. What really got him to this point was being able to make those highlight reel plays and come down with those 50-50 balls, which are definitely really good plays, but you can't rely on that, especially if you're going to be a number one, number two receiver, wherever the Rams are going to project him to be. So I think the fortunate thing for McCutcheon is obviously he's a rookie, undrafted rookie. Coming into this Rams scheme, you have guys in a wide receiver room like Cooper Kupp, who just won the Triple Crown. He's also a guy who pays so much attention to detail. He loves the game, getting better at all facets of his game. That's something he always talks about. And obviously, he has that breakfast club with Matthew Stafford. So Cooper Kupp, he just loves the nitty gritty details about football. So he's in a wide receiver room, not only with Cooper Kupp, but with Allen Robinson. And if you guys have been keeping up on Allen Robinson's press conferences, stuff like that, you guys know that Robinson loves the ins and outs of the games. He doesn't want to just run the route, like just look at the playbook. Oh, I got to run a slant on this play. He wants to know, why am I running a slant? Where's the best place to position myself in this defense? Where's the soft spot in the zone to be able to get open? So my point in all of that is saying, this is a very smart wide receiver core, and they're a wide receiver core that's always getting better and wanting to get better in all facets of their game. And if you take a look at Cooper Kupp, he's one of those guys who's not one of the fastest in the league. He's not the most athletic player in the league, but what he does have is he has the smarts and he spends extra time in the film room to be able to outthink you. And that's something that I think you can really see when you're looking at Lance McCutcheon. That's something you can really benefit in, is just taking that input from Cooper Kupp, because he is not the most athletic guy. He's not a guy who is going to be making these crazy highlight reel types of plays, but he's going to be spending that extra time after practice with his quarterback. He's going to be studying himself on film and seeing what he can do better, not only to get more production in yardage, but he loves to be a guy who can participate in the blocking for the run. So he's a guy who just wants to get better in all facets of his game, and he spends that extra time doing it. And so that's a benefit if McCutcheon does end up making the team. You're in a good wide receiver core who cares about the nitty gritty details, who have shown on their resume that they can put up big yard seasons, but also be good complete receivers, which I think can really help complete Lance McCutcheon. Another thing is, too, if McCutcheon makes this team, he's not going to be the third wide receiver. He probably won't even be the fourth or fifth wide receiver. It's going to be a battle. And so the good thing about that is, with what I talked about earlier, McCutcheon not being a complete wide receiver, a guy being somebody who, again, he makes those highlight reel catches, can go up and get it very smart when it's a 50-50 ball situation. But he really does like that quickness, that speed, and he does like that route running. So you can work on that behind the scenes, not on a big time stage like Sunday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, Monday Night Football, stuff like that. Like Ben Skoranek was just kind of thrusted into a situation last season where he wasn't expected to participate. He was a later round pick, and we saw a lot of those ugly moments where he was having that just kind of unathletic, awkward looking kind of routes where he was trying to bring the ball in and he just didn't look very natural at that, or dropping the deep ball against San Francisco in the championship game. So he's going to be in a deep wide receiver core if he ends up making this, which is good because he can work on getting better as a complete wide receiver as a rookie behind the scenes without all that attention on him. And then by the time it's time for him to step up and show what he can do on national television or on, Sunday morning or Sunday evening, he can really show it. And he's already had the time behind the scenes to work with some great wide receivers. So again, I think that's really going to benefit him. I love what McCutcheon can do and what he was able to show in that preseason game, and then just going back and seeing what he was able to do in college. I love all that and what he's able to bring to the table. But I want to remind you guys of somebody named Jacob Harris from last year when we brought him in the draft, in the 2021 draft, and everybody was going nuts over him in training camp. Everybody was saying he's the next Megatron. He's going to be able to do this and that. Everybody was so excited about him. Then it came to preseason. We really didn't see a ton out of him of what was being advertised. Sure, it was a small sample size, but we didn't see a ton. And then with the season, he ended up getting injured. He didn't get a lot of playing time. And then, we're still hearing little things out of camp out of Jacob Harris, but not a ton. So my point in that is just don't put a lot of stock into one game. Sure, it's definitely exciting, but don't just act like this guy is the next best receiver in the league. I think there's still a long way to go for him. But this guy definitely does look really exciting. And the fact he's able to put on this performance on a big stage. It was a night game in preseason, not just, in training camp in pads, just midday somewhere where nobody's watching. He was actually able to do it in front of a big stage. So that is something positive for me because he's able to show he has what it takes to do on the big stages. But my point in all that is just don't put too much stock into this. Don't expect him to be wide receiver 3 for the Rams. I'm guessing they're still going to pick Tutu Atwell in there. Van Jefferson is still hurt by week 1 versus the Bills. They could even put Ben Skoranek in because of experience. I'm not saying I completely agree with that, but just knowing the Rams, that may be what they end up doing. So just don't be too surprised if it's like that, because who knows? This could be a one-game situation. We're just really going to have to see how it plays out. But to sum it all up, not the biggest receiver in the world, 6'3", 202 pounds. Like I mentioned, does have those long arms, really, really smart in the 50-50 ball situations. And he's a guy that you definitely want there on those fade routes in the end zone, or if it's the last play of the game, just throw it up. He does have a high chance of bringing it down, but it's just things he really does need to work on is that route running, and he's not the fastest receiver. So a lot of the times you don't see that separation between defender and receiver. And so it makes it a little bit harder for the quarterback to fit it in there. But once again, with the skills that he does have, he can go up and get it. So that's overall what I think of Lance McCutcheon. Definitely a really fun surprise. Not anybody was even looking about him, talking about him, including myself. So really cool surprise. But I think if he does end up making this Rams team, we'll see him in specific formations, specific packages throughout the regular season, and just different plays that they draw up for him. But I wouldn't say there's going to be, you're going to see him out there a lot of the times with the starters. He may get a few packages in there if he ends up making the team. Who knows? It really just depends on how this preseason ends up finishing out, and obviously if he makes the roster. So those are my thoughts on Lance McCutcheon. Definitely really fun to to watch. I'll get back into the comments if you guys have any questions or if you guys have any concerns, anything like that regarding the Rams. Definitely let me know in the comments, and I'll just open up the show to you guys in the comments here. Let's see. There's actually a lot of comments. I appreciate everybody who's coming in here. I was just trying to scroll up here and see where I left off. Okay, we have Cheers Rams House. I'm convinced that the Rams has what it takes to run it back. I remember Lawrence McCutcheon, who was formerly a fullback for the Rams. Any relation? So yeah, Mountain Man. I was actually first off, thank you for the shout out. But I was actually kind of curious about that too, because people were mentioning it on my last stream. I did some research, and he's not indeed related to him. So no, he isn't. But who knows? He could still be a really good player though. Let's see. Sitting at a red light. Guy skateboarded by wearing only socks and shoes, carrying a Jack in the Box bag. Summer is getting weird. That's really weird, Johnny Ripple. Let's see. If we keep 8 wide receivers, he'll make the team. Otherwise, he'll be practice squad or cut. And that's what I'm kind of worried about with, the flashes that we were able to see from McCutcheon. Who knows what he ends up doing the rest of this preseason, but with the flashes that we did see, if he continues that production, or at least really similar production, heading into the end of the preseason and getting into the regular season, if he ends up getting practice squad or put on the practice squad, I think a team could be desperate enough to take a shot on him. I mean, we already were able to see what he was able to do for the Rams, and the Rams do have a relatively deep wide receiver core. At least we have some big names near the top of it and some depth that has been proven to do some good things for the Rams. So if he does get put on the practice squad, I would not be surprised if somebody scoops him up. So ideally, I would want to see the Rams be able to keep him on the team. People have mentioned Ben Skoranek. I would rather put Ben Skoranek on the practice squad, keep McCutcheon, but again, it's early in preseason. We'll see what ends up happening. There's still a long way to go before we get to the regular season. Who knows? He could end up flopping with all the pressure being on him. Everybody knowing how good he is now. He may flop, he may not. I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the preseason goes, but hopefully we can keep him on the roster and see what he can do. Let's see. Johnny Ripple says Tramlow really impressed me too. Great quick routes. If he ends up on the practice squad, a team will sign him right away. Yeah, he was impressing me too, and he was another one of those guys who I really didn't know a ton about him, and for me, that's a really weird feeling because I feel like I know the Rams roster inside and out, the players, how they perform inside and out. So when I saw guys like McCutcheon and Trammell, I was like, okay, who are these guys? But you're right, he was looking really crisp. I saw a lot of people comparing him to Cooper Kupp as far as his routes go, and so it's definitely somebody to keep your eye on. I think heading into these next few preseason games, these next couple ones that we have left, there's going to be different storylines that people are going to be watching for compared to when we were heading into this one. Again, I was talking about the defensive backs like Jacoby Durant, and I was talking about Darion Kendrick too, and then talking about that edge rusher position with Chris Garrett in there. Obviously, he didn't get much playing time, and then we didn't know who Lance McCutcheon was. Like, we didn't really know a lot of these players that ended up stepping up, which was kind of the fun aspect. So I think we're going to be looking forward to seeing in these next few preseasons, okay, what can McCutcheon do heading into his second game with everybody knowing what he can do? And then, Darion Kendrick, he almost had a pick six. There's going to be a lot of fun storylines to watch out for, though. But yeah, Trammell was looking pretty good. Let's see. He says, Rams house, go Rams. Welcome in, man. Thank you so much. Alberto Welsh Jr. says we got a pretty decent wide receiver core. I mean, yeah, decent to put it lightly. Like, if this wide receiver core stays healthy, it's looking pretty dangerous. And then if you talk about bringing Odell Beckham Jr. back, like, that's just going to make it even scarier because even if we just had the Triple Crown winner Cooper Kupp and let's just say Van Jefferson and Tutu Atwell, that's still a pretty good wide receiver core just because of Cooper Kupp. Even when the whole world knew it was going to him in the Super Bowl, the Bengals still couldn't stop him. We ended up winning. So it is a pretty good wide receiver core, and I'm just really excited to see if Allen Robinson can have the monster year that I'm expecting him to have. Let's see. If we let any of our wide receivers go, McCutcheon can't step up. Big trust me. I think I read that wrong. Maybe you can comment it again. Sometimes these comments are really weird to read on here. McCutcheon is 6'2". I appreciate that. I was bouncing between 6'2" or 6'3" because recently I've been working on different videos, and there's one player that's 6'2" and then 6'3", so I think I got them mixed up. But thanks for the correction. Let's see. Rod says if they cut Lance, big mistake. He's got too much talent. I agree with you. And even if they put him on the practice squad, like I was talking about earlier, I think he's just shown so much. Even if he just had like one touchdown catch and it was like a 50-50 ball, let's just say his production was spread out over the next 3 games. And he had just like a few of those mossing types of catches or, those contested catches. I think that would have been enough to make another team. So I'm really hoping Rams don't practice squad him or cut him because I really do think another desperate wide receiver core team will come in and swoop him up. But there's still time. Once again, we only saw one game, so he could flop in the rest of the games. He could do good. Hopefully, for us Rams fans, he ends up performing really well. But who knows? We still have to see these next 2 games, see if he lives up to the hype for the rest of them. Let's see. Did McCutcheon ball out? Yes, he did. Was it in one preseason game against DBs that may be on the street Tuesday? Yes. Let's get excited about him, but don't lose your effing mind after a single game. Yeah, I agree with you, man. This is a great point by JJ Fording, Porcel Studios. This is kind of what I was wanting to touch on earlier. We know what he was able to do. We know those highlight reels that he was able to create. And that was really exciting to see, especially just because he just came out of nowhere. Rams fans knew nothing about him. But he has a good point, and this is what I went to warn you guys about. This could be the only game that he actually steps up and does stuff like that. And like JJ mentioned, I was against guys who could be on the street by Tuesday. Like we really want to see him against more premier talent, but I also just want to see more volume of games from him, see if he can continue the production because it is preseason. It could just be a one game wonder type of thing. So great point. Glad that you brought that up. They won't cut him because he's a star. I hope they don't cut him. I hope they don't either. But again, like JJ was just mentioning, just keep in mind that that was just one game. We'll see what the rest of the preseason entails. But the Rams are able to see him every single practice. They're able to see every single rep that he has in practice, and so they know him better than we do as Rams fans just watching one game. So whatever they end up doing, I trust the Rams. Ben got to go. Yeah, Ben Skoranek was a little bit. Yeah, he was one of those players for me who was just really, really tough to watch last season because I wanted to root for him. But it was just really tough to watch because it felt like there wasn't a ton of improvement. Then he had those drops, just kind of those unathletic, like awkward types of routes that he was running and everything. So I don't think it's time yet to just like cut him or let him go or anything. Definitely get him some more time. He wasn't expected to be a player who played a lot for the Rams. If anything, last season it was just because of injuries. So hopefully he gets better. I'm not hoping that he fails or anything, but he's definitely painful to watch. Let's see. I see him being the fourth wide receiver to start the season. That's interesting. Yeah, I think he would have to do a lot to be able to make it up to that point. I think if he has one more good game, I think the Rams end up keeping him on their team. But I think he kind of has to do a lot of work to get to that wide receiver 4 position because the Rams do value, experience in their system and players who they drafted highly over just, young stars and things like that. So it definitely depends on the situation and everything. But I think it would take a little bit more for him to get to that wide receiver 4 spot. Let's see. Yeah, a rookie that had to play all 3 positions that coach wait, let's see. I'm gonna retry that. Yeah, a rookie that had to play all 3 positions that the coach Love has to go. Really? Yeah. Let's see. He has size. He has a catch radius. He fights for the ball. And am I supposed to believe Skoranek would have dominated in this game? Yeah, that's a good point. And again, we we were disappointed by Ben Skoranek last season, and he was very much kind of like a depressing type of player to watch. Or I'd hold my breath whenever the ball was thrown towards him. Like the play in the Super Bowl comes to mind when it tips off his hands over the middle, and we're trying to come back into the game, ends up being an interception, just completely changed the momentum of the game. Obviously, we know that we ended up winning that game, and that's a good thing, but you just can't afford to have plays like that. And then the deep ball against the 49ers that he dropped that really would have put us ahead in that game and gave us a lot of momentum. He ended up dropping that. And those are just 2 moments. Those are 2 big moments in the playoffs. Who knows? Maybe Skoranek is a guy who just doesn't step up in the big games or anything like that. I still want to give him time and an opportunity to be able to grow because, again, he wasn't expected to be a guy to get playing time really at all in the Rams roster last season. It was just really because of those injuries that ended up happening. But at the same time, you can't make excuses. If you're in the NFL, you need to be ready for anything. So I'm hoping that he's better this season. But you got a good point. I don't see Ben Skoranek dominating the way that McCutcheon did. Let's see. Sorry, but Skoranek was trash. He was dropping easy catches. Oh yeah, he was definitely a low light of the Rams last season, but he had his moments in there for sure. I just want to stay hopeful for him. I was definitely getting frustrated and yelling at the TV as much as you guys were, but just hoping just for his sake that he's going to be able to improve. Let's see. Whoa, what happened to the chat? Let's scroll down here. Lance over Ben big time. Yeah, and again, we'll still see how he does the rest of the preseason, but at least comparing to what Ben Skoranek was not really able to do last season, it definitely looked better with Lance McCutcheon. But it was only one game. Recency bias can be a hell of a big drug. Don't get hooked, fam. Yeah, I agree with you. And like I brought up earlier, JJ, when I was talking about Jacob Harris, he was a guy who was just getting absolutely raved about during the Rams training camp last season, or I should say last offseason. He was getting raved about, and he just talked about being, this mini Gronk or mini Megatron. He could go up and get it and just throw the ball up there. He's going to come down with it, type of guy. I was honestly really, really excited to see what he could do, but in the preseason, he really didn't do a lot. He just kind of looked average, and then obviously injuries kind of derailed his season, unfortunately. similar to Tutu Atwell actually. But that you have a good point with that with recency bias, and that's true again with Jacob Harris. He's not being talked about nearly as much with McCutcheon going off, so it definitely has to recency bias definitely plays into a part for that. Let's see. McCutcheon has been tearing it up in practice too. Yeah, I just noticed that the Rams posted actually on their social media today him going up and getting it in a 50-50 ball situation. But then I looked and he was going up against, I think it was Grant Haley. He was going up against number 35. So I'd actually really want to see how he would do versus a guy like Jalen Ramsey or even Troy Hill or at worst Robert Rochelle, just because, like JJ was mentioning earlier, he's going up against guys who could be on the streets, who could maybe not have a job by the time preseason's over. So I think it would be interesting to see how he does versus the number ones on the Rams. See, but honestly, now that he had an amazing game, he'll be locked up next game for sure. Yeah, I mean, we've seen it in cases before. That happens to players that have an amazing game. Like nobody knows who they are. They have an amazing game, and then just after that, they just do nothing because everybody's expecting it. There's all this pressure on them compared to just being somebody who's kind of like a nobody. So, again, we'll see what ends up happening. There are fluke games in the NFL. There are games where it's just like kind of like a good luck type of situation. I'm not saying that is the case for McCutcheon. Very excited to see what else he can do, but just definitely want to temper our expectations a little bit. Tremel is way smaller than Cooper Kupp. He reminded me of Wes Welker kind of guy, almost uncoverable on the short option routes. Yeah, I was noticing that too. Good point, Johnny Ripple. As a lot of the routes that he was having was those short underneath routes, so short, quick out routes, or the little quick in routes, or stop routes where you're just turning around, ready for the ball to come your way. So that's a good comparison for sure, and definitely going to keep my eye on him. Let's see. I hadn't heard a single peep out of camp about McCutcheon before last night. Not a word from McVay or players, etc. Hope we can keep him honestly, but I'll put my faith in the guy that led us to a Super Bowl win. Yeah, for sure. That's just kind of where my mind is too. On that is like it just came out of nowhere. Like I'd say 99% or 99.9% of Rams fans had no idea who this guy was, who McCutcheon was. So I agree with you. We didn't really hear anything out of camp, even out of the beat reporters. They weren't saying like McCutcheon goes up, he's making plays all camp like we were with like Darion Kendrick, Jacoby Durant, who were really consistent in the training camp and were making big plays. We really didn't hear that from McCutcheon in the training camp or anything like that. I think the only time I can speak of hearing McCutcheon, and I had to go back to hear this, was Cooper Kupp was complimenting him in the OTAs period. So it wasn't even in training camp, but complimenting his work ethic and some of his skills he had. So that's like the only time I heard anybody in the Rams organization talking about him. Obviously before he had that big game. So it's a good point. Just kind of came out of nowhere and dominated in that preseason game. Didn't really hear much before out of camp before that. So definitely going to keep my eye on it though. Let's see. Cup Robinson, Beckham, Jefferson could be the best wide receiver ones through history. A little better than solid group. Oh yeah, definitely a little better than a solid group. And if we can bring OBJ back, that's just gonna be insane. Like I think Cup, Robinson, and Jefferson are still a really, really scary trio. I think that Cup and Robinson are just a scary duo on their own. That's gonna be really, really hard to stop, especially with the attention that Cooper Cup demands. But if you talk about bringing back Odell Beckham Jr., and then I know he wouldn't play till maybe late November or into December, but that would give him the fresh legs. And again, you're talking about that. It could be the best wide receiver 1 through 4 in NFL history. So gonna keep my eyes on it. It does a lot of the rumors are kind of talking about how Odell's going to the Bills, but it could just be something to help drive up his price and give him a bigger contract. I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. But bottom line, I want Odell back in the horns. I want OBJ to come back and do those touchdown celebrations in the Rams, bring the swag to the Rams back again. But if they don't bring him back, I don't think that their Super Bowl chances go down that much at all. Like they would have played a lot of the season without him already, just because of that injury. But they already have a really good wide receiver core. And Allen Robinson, I've talked about it a lot. I think he's going to have a monster year with this Rams team. And then you already have Cooper Kupp in the fold, and then the people behind that really won't have a lot of attention. And then I think our running game should be much improved with Cam Akers coming back and actually having his first official camp in OTAs period. I think that's going to just really bode well for the Rams. So hopefully we can bring Odell back here for the Rams. But I think if we don't bring him back, it doesn't mean our Super Bowl chances go down. Let's see. If any of our wide receivers go down, McCutcheon can step up big. I think that's true to a point, like, kind of like with a grain of salt type of thing, because as I talked about earlier, McCutcheon is a guy, again, that he specializes in those 50-50 balls. He specializes in those situations where he has some people draped over him. It's his job to go up and get it, those fade ball situations, or if you really need it, that's the last play of the game, throw it to McCutcheon. He can do that really well. But he really does lack physically in the speed department, in the quickness department. Quickness, you can definitely improve. As far as speed, you can't really get a lot faster. It's just whatever you end up being gifted with when you're born. But I think it's the route running is something that I really want to see him improve. So if any of our wide receivers went down and he, let's just say, was asked to be the wide receiver 1 or 2, he could do well in those 50-50 ball situations, but again, I think that he would really need to improve his routes for me to be comfortable with him being in that situation. Because again, if even when you're just going back and watching what he was able to do in his college days at Montana State, but also with the Rams against the Chargers, there wasn't a lot of times where there's a lot of separation between him and his guy. That's partly because of his speed, but it's also partly because of his route running. And so if any of the receivers were to go down, I would definitely want to see, like, obviously those big plays from him. But I'd be a little bit uncomfortable just knowing he's not a complete wide receiver. He can do some things really well that we were able to see versus the Chargers, but I would really want to see him complete his game, or at least improve a little bit more in all areas of his game. See, how much are you going to miss Bobby Trees? I know he was your favorite Ram. Oh yeah, thank you for asking me that question, Andres, because a lot of people don't know that about me. That Robert Woods definitely was my favorite Ram when he was here. So it was one of those things that, like, for the first month or maybe month and a half ish, I was just like really bummed about it. Like, I knew we when I ended up seeing who the player we got in Allen Robinson, I knew he was going to be really good, and I still think he's going to be amazing for this season. But it was just like Robert Woods personally, I just liked him as a player. Always very underrated. Always kept his head down, continued to work. Very very complete type of receiver who could do everything. Block. He could do intermediate stuff, deep stuff. He was just very humble, and then obviously those jet sweeps we saw him do. So I think I've gotten a little bit more used to him being on the Titans now, no longer being on the Rams. But yeah, I will say it definitely was hurting me a lot for the first like month or month and a half. Let's see. OBJ isn't on the team. Yeah, I know, but he's a free agent right now. He hasn't signed anywhere. The Rams are still really optimistic that they're bringing him back. It's still really looking like he's going to the Bills. But what I was talking about earlier is like the Rams are still trying to bring back OBJ. So if we do that, that just makes our wide receiver core even scarier. But you're right, Alberto. He's not on our team. QB coach Greg Olson has been working with McCutcheon after practice one-on-one and is a big supporter. That should carry weight with McVay. Olson is a great coach with a great track record. That's actually a good point, Johnny Ripple. I didn't hear anything about that, but that's actually really good to know, because you're right. That does weigh into the decisions when they're making the cuts and different roster moves and everything. It could only take, obviously, he did have that big game, but it could take that coach just, putting his hand on the table and saying, no, I want this guy to stay here. We worked on this. We've done this together. And so that's actually a good point. I didn't even know that, but thank you. Bills superfan, welcome in. He says OBJ comes to the Bills. Well, good luck with all that, man. I don't know where OBJ is going to go. It's been kind of like a torture act for me to watch this whole offseason, not knowing if he's coming back or not. Actually, really quick here, I didn't even see the super chat here, so thank you so much, David Texel. I'm so sorry I did not see this until right now. I'm using a different streaming software, so I didn't see this, but I want to shout you out. Thank you so much. He says, "Seen your work through the years. Keep it up, Wolford or Perkins." Thank you so much. I just want to thank you again for the super chat. Definitely don't need to do that, but it does help the channel. So thank you so much for that. But as far as Wolford or Perkins, heading into the preseason and heading into this season, in the entire last season, I actually really did like Wolford over Perkins. But actually being able to see the 2 preseason games that he did have, or not the 2 preseason games, but seeing 2 preseasons so far with Perkins, I'd actually prefer Perkins. He seems to be a guy who's a really good fighter. He's always fighting for his team, fighting for those yards. And I don't know how he makes like 300-pound people just fly off of him, even though he's a quarterback. He's just running through them. Great playmaker. So for me, I'd actually take Perkins. I still really like Wolford, and he has a soft spot in my heart for coming in for Jared Goff, bringing a mobile QB from. I really like his story, but as far as play goes, I would definitely take Bryce Perkins, not John Wolford. But thank you so much again for the super chat. Sorry I was late to getting that. Again, this new streaming software, it was just I didn't see it until the last second, so glad I was able to see it now. But sorry about that, man. Let's see. Andre, I'm not going to miss him much because he won't be the same and will miss half the season anyway, 5 games maybe. Oh, you're talking about Odell Beckham Jr. Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Again, he could still end up coming back. The Rams are still really trying. Sean McVay is out here publicly calling out Odell Beckham Jr. So who knows? He could still come back to the Rams. He may not. We'll see what ends up happening, though. Let's see. Alberto Welch Jr. says, "Get out of here, Bills fan." No, he's welcome in. Let's see. Scroll down here. Thank you everybody who is in here in the comments. This is one of the highest amount of comments that I've been able to come through today, and just reading all your comments. So I definitely appreciate everybody coming in here. Let's see. Jeez, there's a lot of trash talking going on in the comments. Let's see. Here's Payo time. Welcome in, guys. If you are a Rams fan, like I'm sure you guys are because you're in here watching Rams content, definitely go to Payo time, subscribe to his channel. Really, really nice guy. I always enjoy watching his Rams content, so definitely make sure to go head over to Payo time's channel. Jeez. OBJ can go. It's all good. He won't win any other ring. Mark my words. I mean, he said, mark my words, actually brings up a different type of memory. But OBJ is, again, a guy, if he comes back to the Rams, I'm going to be really excited about it. In the entire offseason, I was just like begging for him to come back. I really wanted to come back because he's one of my favorite players in the NFL, even before he ended up coming to the Rams. So I really wanted him to come back. But again, we have Cooper Kupp, we have Allen Robinson, we have Tutu Atwell, Van Jefferson, and then obviously we're just talking about Lance McCutcheon and everything. We have a deep wide receiver core here for the Rams. I would definitely really want to see OBJ come back to the Rams. If he comes back, I'm going to be stoked out of my mind, and I can't even imagine watching the wide receiver trio of Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, and OBJ. But if he doesn't come back, I've talked about this with Rams Showcase and Payo Time. It doesn't mean that our Super Bowl chances go all the way down. Just pack it up for the season. It doesn't make that big of an impact because, especially, he's not going to be playing for a lot of the season, maybe November or December, and so we'll see what ends up happening with him. Willie Bowen, welcome into the stream. Thank you so much for coming in. He says, "Is Lance McCutcheon related to former LA Rams legend running back Lawrence McCutcheon?" No, he isn't. Actually, there's a lot of people have actually asked me this, and I was kind of curious about it myself. But at least from my research, he's not related. Let's see. Peo Time says, "When are you joining the wide receiver core, the Rams wide receiver core?" I'm working on it, Peo, but there's definitely a lot of players on this team who are providing some good competition. I don't want to take any snaps away. No, I'm just kidding. It would be fun to play for the Rams, though. Willie Bowen says, "Hi, Peo. What's up, Willie?" Whoa. Geez, there are so many comments. Thank you guys, everybody who's in here. Let's see. Not here to hate, but Bills is going to be a good team for a longer time than the Rams. Yeah, definitely appreciate you coming in here as a Bills fan too, just to watch some Rams content. Definitely really do appreciate you. You guys don't need to be attacking him or anything like that. Any NFL fan is definitely welcome here. And he may have a point. Maybe the Bills will be better long term than the Rams. But we'll see. We'll see how the Rams continue to build. They've been a team who likes to win now, but they've been able to sustain it since Sean McVay's gotten here. So we'll see what ends up happening. Pale Time says, "Hey, Bill super fan, you ready for week 1?" I don't think he is ready. Let's see. Wow, everybody's attacking this Bills fan. I actually kind of feel bad for him. BJ, welcome to the stream. He says, "Can we talk about how good our secondary was looking? Bobby Wagner is already giving us results." Yeah, that's actually a really, really good point. I haven't even touched on this yet. I'm actually really excited for our secondary because we have Jalen Ramsey, who locks up your favorite wide receiver. I don't care who it is, he'll lock him up. And then next, we have Hill, who's a guy who's really versatile. He can play inside position, like slot position. He can play outside really well. So it's always good to have versatility in there. And then he can also play the star position for the Rams, which they were having Ramsey play a lot of the last season. So good versatility there. He's been in our system. He's a guy who just always seems to be around the football and gets those interceptions. We know in 2020, he seemed to always be around the football, take it to the house. And so very excited to see how he can do. He's getting more of a playmaker type of corner as far as what he can do, because Ramsey, he's a guy who locks up the receiver. He doesn't really get a lot of targets. So I think Troy Hill is going to be a guy who has big opportunities heading into this year to get those interceptions like he did in 2020. And then third cornerback, it's still, we still don't know who it is officially. It could be David Long Jr., Robert O'Shell. I think those are the top two guys. But then when you're talking about Darion Kendrick and Jacoby Durant, I was actually really excited heading into this game because they'd been raved about the entire not preseason, the entire training camp. They're making all these sorts of plays, and then the players are mentioning by name, Jacoby Durant or Darion Kendrick. These guys are guys who are making plays and getting those interceptions, big turnovers, and everything. And so for me, that kind of opened my eyes, especially you would see Sean McVay saying that, you would see Jalen Ramsey saying that, Taylor Rapp said this is the best group of young or people heading into the secondary that he's ever seen in his NFL career. So definitely a lot of hype about it. And then Darion Kendrick, I was a little bit disappointed, but I was also really, really excited to see him break on that. I think it was like an out route against the Chargers. He almost had a pick six. So definitely living up to the hype. And it's a good point, BJ. We have a really, really good secondary. And then you talk about adding Bobby Wagner in there, like you said, the commander, the defense. He can align us the right ways, has experience in those leagues, going to be a Hall of Famer. This secondary is looking really, really good. And I think my dream scenario for safeties is Nick Scott and Jordan Fuller. We'll see if it's going to be Jordan Fuller and Taylor Rapp like it has been in years past. But the secondary is actually looking really good, and it has a lot of good depth too. Let's see. Our secondary was struggling. It depends on actually when you're watching, because and also it depends on schemes, because the Rams do like to play a lot of that kind of like off zone, really far back types of things. So it gives up the underneath routes. The Chargers were attacking a lot of the underneath stuff. But at a lot of the points, like near the end of the game, or even from like mid second quarter on, we weren't even playing guys like Darion Kendrick, Jacoby Durant, Robert O'Shell anymore. But if you watch like the first quarter when those guys were in there, we were actually looking really good. Now, you did remind me of Terrell Burgess, because I was kind of disappointed and a little bit sad when I saw this, because Rams fans want to see Terrell Burgess on the field. He's gotten some time with the Rams since he was drafted here, but he has high potential. And Rams fans are always wondering, like, why isn't Terrell Burgess in the fold? I thought that he was going to play because we drafted him, this and that, whatever. But that deep ball touchdown on the Chargers' first drive was definitely his fault. He bit a little bit too much inside, and then the Chargers receiver took advantage, went outside deep. And so keep an eye on Terrell Burgess. I feel like that was something in the preseason. He can't let up stuff like that, especially when we have a deep safety room, deep secondary room, and everything like that. So kind of sad for Terrell Burgess there. Hopefully he was able to bounce back and impress the coaches a little bit, because he was already struggling to get playing time with the Rams, and then having a play like that can be detrimental. Even though it's one play, that's a big play in preseason versus backups. This is where you're able to show what you can do. So definitely keeping an eye on Terrell Burgess, because he's a guy Rams fans always want to be on the field. Rams fans are always asking him to come onto the field and everything. They liked him in his college tape and everything, but that kind of maybe explained a little bit why the Rams haven't been playing him. Bill Superfan says, Pale, you might be able to tell me what Rams do after Stafford and Donald. Yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting after that era is over, but definitely soaking in what we have right now. Let's see. JJ 14 Poor Soul Studio says Jacob Harris was being converted to tight end last season too. Now he's a full-time wide receiver, so we shall see. Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to keep an eye on Jacob Harris. He did get injured, I think, during training camp, so he wasn't able to play at all last preseason. But I did hear that today he was actually practicing with the Rams and getting involved in some of the drills off to the side. So hopefully we can see Jacob Harris in this game too. Wouldn't that be fun to see McCutcheon and Jacob Harris on the field, just kind of battling it out, making those big highlight reel plays? But again, Jacob Harris was getting a lot of talk he's getting a lot of the talk in the OTAs and in the training camp last season. Didn't end up doing as much as what people wanted. So we'll definitely have to keep an eye on him. Let's see, just trying to keep up. Oh my gosh, there's so many people in the chat here. Thank you so much. Willie Bowen says Buffalo Bills never won a Super Bowl championship. They are choke artists. Yeah, we're gonna have to see what he does. Again, I kind of feel bad for this Bills fan, because Doesn't need to be bullied, guys. He's just in here to watch. If he starts talking smack, you can do it back, but I don't think he was coming in here to hate or anything. Uh, the Rams will have to find a new core like any team, but I celebrate the present right now. I have no need to worry about tomorrow. Good point, Payo time. Definitely enjoying the moments right now with Sean McVay. This may be the best the Rams will ever look, just ever. Like this may be the golden era of the Rams that is going to be known as the best era of Los Angeles Rams football. So just trying to soak it in right now, not stressing about the future, letting the experts handle that. Let's see. There's a lot of talk back and forth. Payo Time says, haha, yep, I love trusting my team's front office and coaching staff. Rams have had some brutal leadership before our current. Oh, definitely. It's something that us Rams fans get used to, having a great team like this, great organization, just really top to down, or from the top to the bottom. We just have an upper class organization, upper class players, all of that. So just trying to enjoy it while we have it right now, especially just seeing some of the turmoil around the league. Let's see. Okay. Um, Here's a good question. How do you feel about Kyron Williams? Yeah, I actually, when the Rams drafted him, I was actually really, really excited to see what he was able to do with us. And looking at his tape, he's not the fastest type of player, but I really liked what he was able to do to create some space with those juke moves, and those quick cuts and everything. I think he's really good at breaking tackles and creating some space with just those quick cuts. And then again, he's not the fastest guy, but he's going to make a lot of players miss. He's obviously one of the best pass protecting running backs in all of college football. So excited to see that. As far as like his production and everything that I see heading into this season, I don't know if he'll get a lot of playing time. He really didn't. He wasn't able to play in camp really that much because he injured his foot beforehand. So didn't get a lot of those valuable reps, but definitely going to be a guy to keep an eye on. He may play in this preseason game, but I'm not sure if he's going to miss it just because he's still rehabbing. But let me know what you think about Kyron Williams. Okay. OBJ was a priority even before the Van Jefferson injury. Offense is totally different without him or with him in there. Yeah, definitely going to be a guy to keep an eye on. But again, I strongly believe Allen Robinson is going to have just a monster type of season, and that he's just really going to turn a lot of the heads around the NFL. A lot of people aren't talking about him, but I honestly think he's going to do really good. And then you have Cooper Kupp, who's demanding all the attention, but even when he demands attention, he still somehow finds ways to get open, and Stafford still has that connection to be able to find him. So OBJ definitely is a guy I want to see back, but I talked about it earlier. If he doesn't come back, I don't really think it degrades their Super Bowl chances that much at all because we have a really good wide receiver core. Let's see. See, Lance McCutcheon can also be on the returner or on the kicking team. Yeah, I don't know if I really see that just because he's not the most athletic as far as making people miss, and he's really not the fastest guy. I don't know off the top of my head his 40 time, but it's really not that fast. I talked about that a little bit earlier. He is definitely good at breaking tackles and different things like that, shedding tackles, stuff like that, but he's not really a guy who's going to be elusive and make all different types of juke moves and stuff like that. So I wouldn't want him on there, especially also we have Brandon Powell. I really like him at that kick returner, punt returner situation in that punt returner. At punt returner, we saw him get a couple of returns last year, so it'd be interesting to see that, but I just don't think he's quite fast enough, quite quick enough to do that. Let's see. Let me actually get a drink here before I read this comment. Let's see if I can pronounce his name right. He says Gil Dizon. Let me know if I said that right. He says, I was at the game and I watched this number 82 make a couple amazing TDs. If I only knew who this Lance McCutcheon was, I would appreciate him even more. I'll try to get his autograph this Friday. Oh, you're going to that game too? That's awesome. I mean, it's cool how you're able to actually see that in person there. I can't even imagine what that atmosphere was like and being able to see all that in person, but definitely like everybody didn't know who McCutcheon was, so it's kind of cool to see an underdog story like that, or like nobody knew who this guy was. And I heard a few fans talking about how they saw 82 on the field early before the game, and they could get his autograph, but they just didn't know who he was. They didn't ask for it, but I'm sure he'll get a lot of autographs this game for people. Just want to shout out this guy again because I nearly missed his super chat before. Thank you so much, David Texel. If you are still in here for the super chat, all the money that you guys donate here does go into the channel, trying to save up for a new camera and just improve the quality. So thank you, anybody who does give some super chats. I really do appreciate it. Jeez. Yeah, I agree. Perkins is better than Wolford, but it's kind of hard to separate recency bias from like what the actual facts are. But I do think that Perkins is just like the better overall player uh, than Wolford. And again, he just has that grit and that fight that I really like to see in a quarterback. It's also really fun to see a mobile quarterback in a Ram system. Let's see. If I could ask you guys to stop going back and forth with this Bills fan, I'd appreciate that because it's just kind of cluttering up the comments. There's no need to be smack talking all over the place. So if you guys could stop that, I'd appreciate it. But yeah, if you have any questions, definitely let me know. It all started because of you. Let's see. Neil Gonzalez, welcome in. He says, we will see if he was worthy. Let's see. We will see if he is worthy in the next couple of preseason games. Definitely for sure. Like I've been talking about. I think he's definitely a guy that keep our eye on. We can get excited over, we can get hyped over, but don't put a ton of stock into it because it was one preseason game. We'll have to see what he ends up doing moving forward. So definitely a fun storyline to be able to keep an eye on. Let's see. Peo is the #1 Canadian Ram fan. Definitely, I agree with you. And no problem, Peo. Time for the shout out. Let's see. Von Miller will not get a Super Bowl ring with the Buffalo Bills. That's an interesting take. I feel like the Buffalo Bills have a pretty good chance at a Super Bowl. But again, I think the Rams have a good chance at a Super Bowl too. But hoping for our sake, Von Miller doesn't win so we can get some more. Let's see. Columbia Forte 87 says, why isn't Perkins our #2? I'm predicting he's going to be the #2 by the end of preseason, just based on what he's been able to show with the Rams so far. And so that's my guess, is that Perkins is going to take over that spot. But I think last year it was just we'd seen a little bit more out of Wolford, and the coaching staff really liked Wolford. But I think with these two strong preseasons, if he can finish out these next two games strong, I think that Perkins takes QB2. Let's see. I don't agree with this, Johnny Rams. The Bills don't suck. They're definitely going to be a contender, and they're going to be a hard team to beat this in week 1. Thank you so much, Peo Time. He says hit the like button. Definitely do hit the like button. I can't tell how many likes we have. Let me actually check that real quick. We have 20 likes right now, so I appreciate everybody who has hit the like button. If you could do that quick favor, it does help push the video out to more audiences, and so more people like you can watch the video. Let's see. Okay. Let me... actually, I don't know what to do with that one. It's crazy how many people are commenting in here. It's trying to keep up with everybody. Thank you so much once again, everybody. I'm hearing Brust looks pretty good. Do you think he will be the week 1 starter at right guard? So that's a good question, and we definitely heard that Logan Brust was looking really good in the OTAs, and he was looking really good in training camp and everything. I think for me, like the Rams have to see more, but for me, I have to see a little bit more out of him because I think he does do pretty well in the run game and everything. He was able to set up a screenplay really, really nice against the Chargers and set up a first down for Jake Funk. But there was also a play that he got dominated with a pass rush move. And then on top of that, you hear Sean McVay was really talking highly about Coleman Shelton. He's also had passed in this system. So I think it's going to be Coleman Shelton at right guard week 1. That's really what it's sounding like from Coach McVay. But also it's just, I think that McVay really doesn't like to play rookies a lot. It has to be like certain scenarios where they get playing time or really, really special players. I think Bruss needs a little bit more development. And the fact that he was playing in preseason kind of tells me that, okay, I think it's Shelton's job to lose. So I don't think he's going to be the starter week 1, but he's definitely looking good, showing some flashes, but there's definitely things to improve on. Bruss looked like a perennial Pro Bowler. I wouldn't go that far yet. Again, he had some good plays for sure in the preseason. I don't want to sound super negative on this show either. I know I'm saying like, oh, don't get too high on McCutcheon. He could disappoint in the next couple games. He still needs to prove it, all that. I don't want to sound like that, but just don't get your hopes too high on him because in my opinion, from what I saw out of Logan Bruss, he definitely has some strong reps, but there are also some reps where he got bullied and pushed back into the quarterback, or he couldn't hold his block in the running game. So definitely some things to show for sure, but Bruss definitely has a high ceiling with the Rams. Johnny Ripple, Burgess clearly falling out of favor. Who starts opposite of Fuller? Starts opposite of Fuller? Rap Scott. Yeah, so my dream scenario is to have Jordan Fuller and Nick Scott as being the primary safeties, and it's really sad because I did like Terrell Burgess, and there's still time for him to make up, but I just don't think he'll get a lot of playing time, just based off what the Rams have done in the past. But also, again, he just gave up that big touchdown versus the Chargers, so I don't know if I see anything coming in the near future for Burgess. So I'd really like to see Fuller and Scott. I think that's a stronger duo, but let me know what you think. Tribe says, I hope it's Scott. I never liked Rap. Yeah, Rap just doesn't seem to progress too much. He's just kind of like, in my opinion, he's just like the definition of average. And there's definitely some plays where he lets up, it's like a blown coverage. So Nick Scott balled out in the playoffs, and I think for his sake, I really want to see him start opposite of Jordan Fuller. But also, I think that's just a stronger duo myself. Thank you, Neil Gonzalez. He says he just hit the like button. If you guys want to be like Neil Gonzalez, definitely do hit the like button too. Helps this video and this live stream get out to further audiences and grow the channel. Stan Kroenke knows the future of the LA Rams, definitely. Let's see if I can pronounce this. Los Fornia. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but thank you for coming into the stream. I don't think I've ever seen you in here before. So thank you for coming in. He says Darion Kendrick is a beast. He definitely is. He out of Jacoby Durant and Darion Kendrick, I definitely prefer. Or I don't want to say prefer just yet. I definitely like Darion Kendrick better, and he's shown more flashes. I'm really excited. I hope he can get a pick six this game because he came that close last game, and I hope he can get like a big play, a big turnover this next game. I think people are hyping Lance. Let's see how he does in the next preseason games. I agree with you. I'm definitely really excited to see what Lance McCutcheon can do, but I learned my lesson last year about Jacob Harris. Don't hype up players too much from mini camps, OTAs, training camp, and even preseason games. There's still another 2 preseason games to go. Who knows if he'll even make the roster or not? Who knows if he makes the roster, if he gets much playing time in the regular season? So I agree with you. I definitely don't want to get too high on him, but don't want to sound too negative for sure. Let's see. Thank you to everybody who is also in here. I'm still trying to catch up to the comments here, and thank you to all the people who have super chatted and liked and everything. I really do appreciate it. Just want to shout you guys out. Let's see. The Ramelia Sports Report, another great Rams YouTuber, guys. If you are not subscribed to him, definitely head over to his channel, pop in there, hit subscribe, and definitely just watch out for his live streams too. He does some great Rams content. Thank you so much for coming in. Let's see. Great stream, Rams House. Thank you so much, man. Let's see. Horns up at Rams House. What did I miss? I also like how your name's Rams House too. We kind of talked a lot about about a lot of different things, but I talked about McCutcheon, what he does well, and just kind of his physical measurables and everything, his past in his college, what he did well, what he specializes in, what he needs to work on in his role with the Rams. If you do want to rewatch, you can either skip back to the start. That's where I was talking about McCutcheon, and just from there, we've just been going through the comment section in the chat and answering questions. Let's see. With the tall tree, wide receivers Lance McCutcheon and Allen Robinson and Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, we should be amazing in the red zone. Oh yeah, definitely. And I think back to just a couple years ago in 2020, this team did not know how to punch it in to the end zone. And I think a big reason for that, first, we were coming off of not having Todd Gurley anymore, that dominant guy who we could give it to on the 1 yard line. He'd go in there, but also just like, no disrespect to Goff, but he just wasn't that type of guy at quarterback. And so you just wouldn't see a lot of the times the Rams punching it into the end zone. It was a very hard time for the Rams. It was a very big struggle for them to punch it in the red zone. And I agree with you. We got some tall guys who can go up and get it in those 50-50 ball situations, in the red zone situations. So going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on for sure, heading throughout this regular season. I'm really excited for the regular season. Let's see. Yeah, everybody in here recognizing Ramelia Sports Report. What a great Rams content creator. It says, Rams House, yes, at 9:05 p.m. Oh, yeah, you're having a stream at 9:05? Awesome. I'll try to tune in for sure. Let's see. What time is it for you right now? I'm from the Caribbean. I don't know if you're talking to Ramelia Sports Report, but I'll answer your question anyway. It's 7:16 for me right now in Colorado. Tutu is going to be a star. I really hope so for sure. He was a little bit underwhelming from what we saw in the preseason last year. Didn't really have that game-changing speed that we were advertising, but at the same time, didn't really get a lot of opportunities. I think the doubt from NFL fans like me, Rams fans like me, really has Tutu wanting to prove everybody wrong, which will only help the Rams in the future. So definitely hope that he can do well too, especially because he may be asked to be wide receiver 3 come week 1 if Van Jefferson isn't right. I think McVay said Perkins is playing next week too. Oh yeah, I think he says I think McVay said Perkins is playing next week too. Wolford has the number 2 locked up, I think. Okay, interesting. Yeah, I know that he had the number 2 locked up last year and then coming into this offseason, but I do think that if Ramelia or not Ramelia, if Bryce Perkins can do what he's been able to do just this preseason and last preseason, I think he does win out that QB2 job. But who knows? There may be no movement. We don't know. Hopefully, we don't have to see any of our backup QBs because that would mean Stafford would go down, but gonna be interesting to keep an eye on. Oh, and from the peeps I've heard talking about the play everybody thinks Burgess was burnt on was actually Scooter's screw up, not Burgess. Just something to think about. Oh, thank you for letting me know, JJ. I know I was watching on NFL Plus, so I had to hear the Chargers broadcast, unfortunately. Um, but they said that Burgess was burnt, and it kind of looked like it. But thank you for clearing that up for me. That does give me a little bit more hope. I do think that Burgess should have picked him up still, despite it not being maybe his primary job, but picked him up a little bit better. Maybe it was a little bit late. I'm not an NFL coach or anything like that, but thank you for letting me know. Johnny Ripple says the biggest challenge Perkins has is his strengths, are when the play breaks down or he bails. He was also playing against scrubs without a D, playing and blitzing happening against regular season D, way different. Yeah, definitely agree with you, Johnny Ripple. But I think I do prefer Bryce Perkins over John Wolford right now. And I know that this is what Ramelia Sports Report was saying before even the preseason even got underway. I know he wanted him to win it out and that he liked him better. So I'm a little bit late on the Perkins train for sure. But for me, I think it's still a really good backup, and you are right with what you're saying on him. But something that is really cool to me is when there's like these big 300-pound defenders on him, and he's able to break off or spin off and make these extensions of these plays. There's definitely some weaknesses that he has, but he definitely is able to create some yardage, especially on plays like he's playing with a backup offensive line, backup wide receivers. So you are right. He is going against kind of like a vanilla defense with backups playing in there and everything like that. But also Perkins isn't playing with starters, so I not to say I want Stafford injured. I would want to see Perkins with the number ones going against the number 1 defense, but also having number 1 offense weapons and also having better blocking and everything and actual play calling. But I'm going to keep an eye on it for sure. Ramelia Sports Report says, question, what's your take on offensive coordinator Liam Cohen? So hyped about Liam Cohen scheming Allen Robinson and Tutu Atwell open. We're going to be explosive. I believe we'll be a dominant team this year. Oh yeah, I was really glad that we were able to bring him back, especially with with losing Kevin O'Connell. I was really excited to see that Liam Cohen was coming back. He did some good things with us previously. Glad that he has some continuity, and you're right. I think that he does a good job of scheming some guys open. Allen Robinson's touched on it before. It's actually kind of like comical to think about with him on his former teams. He was raving about how he loves being in LA because he's actually being helped to get schemed open. So that just kind of is like a knock on his other teams that they would just kind of tell him to get open and just do whatever. But no, you're right. He's good at scheming guys open. I'm really excited. I think we have a better overall team just in general than we did last season. And so that's really encouraging because we won the Super Bowl last season with an injured team that was arguably worse than the team we have now. So very, very excited about Cohen. Gil Dizon says, if you have club level seats, you can stand over the side tunnel and ask players for autographs when they walk under. You gotta recognize them. I called Blanton over, but called him Leonard Floyd. Oh my gosh, that's actually kind of funny. That's cool though. I would definitely want to go to SoFi Stadium sometime in my life. My bucket list is still going to a beach and going to SoFi Stadium, so hopefully I can do that eventually. But thank you for letting me know about that, man. Kroenke does know the future, and it's very, very bright. That's right. Let's see. What about Hardy? He went off too. Yeah, there's just so many guys that went off and played really, really well for the Rams that there's like not enough time to touch on it on one stream. But yeah, Daniel Hardy from the get-go, he was playing really good, getting some good pressures in there. And then there was another guy. His name is escaping me right now. Let's see if I can find him. But he was number 51, the edge rusher. I think his last name was Whitley. Um, and he was opposite of Daniel Hardy on the side where Von Miller was playing when we brought him in. And I was like, who is this guy? He was actually balling out too. So good to see the depth there for the Rams. Let me see if I can find it. So it was Brenton Whitley was the guy. I noticed him coming off of the edge for the Rams on the other side, and he's apparently a rookie. There's a lot of these guys who I just didn't know coming into this preseason game that were actually balling out. It looks like our edge rusher position, we're pretty deep there because we weren't even playing Terrell Lewis, Chris Garrett, or Justin Hollins. We were playing Daniel Hardy and Brenton Whitley, and they were doing really good, creating some pressures and they created some good pressures, almost causing some turnovers. So definitely guys to keep an eye on. Old Man Ghost, or otherwise known as Bruce, welcome to the stream. He says, "Hello, glad to see you. Thank you so much, Old Man Ghost, for coming to the stream. Appreciate you for coming in." At Rams House, I'm the other Rams House. We both have the same name. Yeah, I know that when I was making this channel, my first actual name, like the channel that I had, I think it was the Football Fan or something like that. But the first original name of this channel was the Board Game Genius because I made this when I was a lot younger. So I was like, I'll do a channel about board game reviews, and I was like, why not just do something about the Rams? Because I've always liked them. So it's like Rams House. It's like it's their chant and everything like that, and it's also a good channel name. But I know a lot of people have that name. Friday we host the Houston Texans. Yeah, I'm ready for that. Let's see. Romelia, well said. I believe we will win the Super Bowl again. Me too. To me, Perkins is equal to Wolford passing but more athletic than Wolford. That's a good way to put it. But if they're equal in the passing game and everything, and I could actually see that too with what you're saying, that is a good point. But one's more athletic. I'd take the one that's a little bit more athletic. I really like John Wolford and his story, and it seems like the Rams really like him. But based on skills and like what you mentioned, I take Perkins. But I actually do want to see Wolford in the preseason because the last game we saw Wolford play for the Rams was against Seattle when he got injured on his neck and left midway through the game. So that was the 2020 playoffs or 2021 playoffs. So I don't know. Let's see. With Jefferson out, the new depth chart has Tutu as wide receiver 3. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think that the Rams plan on playing him at wide receiver 3 if Jefferson isn't ready by week 1. And I actually just don't think that Jefferson will be ready by week 1, or they don't want to rush him back, unfortunately. But you could kind of see that in the preseason game. The Rams, Sean McVay talked about how he was going to play Tutu out well, was excited to see what he was able to do, but then Tutu never even played in the preseason game. McVay spoke on that later, talking about how because he wants to keep him ready, it seems like Tutu's shown the Rams enough in training camp and in the OTA period and everything like that to be able to be the wide receiver 3 if Jefferson is not ready by week 1. Let's see. Other Rams house says, we will run it back, and I believe we will win we will be Super Bowl contenders for our lifetime. Our future is going to be amazing. Going to be fun. Neil Gonzalez says, did Garrett play? No, Chris Garrett didn't play, and I was actually kind of sad about that because he was my favorite player from the 2021 NFL draft from the Rams. I really, really liked Chris Garrett. I liked his story and everything. Obviously, he played really, really good last preseason, but no, he didn't play at all, and maybe that just means that he has a little bit more of a solidified spot on this team, but I definitely want to see him. Rams house, perfect. Let's see. Rams house need running back Kareem Hunt come on in. I wouldn't say it would be fun to have an explosive element at running back like Todd Gurley. That would be really, really fun to watch. But for me, I really like the guys that we have. Cam Akers was looking really good before his Achilles injury, but he was a little bit rushed back after when he's still recovering. So we weren't really able to see him at full strength. And then now he has a whole, he was actually able to have a camp. This is his first camp he's ever had and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening. But I think we're pretty good at where we are. We need OBJ for real. Let's see. Oh, it looks like I'm actually caught up to the comments here. And I know he wants us. Let's see. How about Akers and Hendo? So, Jared Ramirez, first, welcome on in the stream. I don't know if I've read your comments or not, but thank you for coming in. I appreciate you. As far as Akers and Henderson, I really do like Akers, and I was really excited to see what he could do when we brought in Stafford. Obviously, he tore his Achilles, missed most of the season, came back for the playoffs, but he wasn't all the way healthy. And so For me, I really like Akers, and I think there is some recency bias, like all of us fans do, or we don't think that Cam Akers is as good as he was just because of his injury. But I think again, having that full camp, his first official camp that he's been able to play since he's come into the NFL, um, I think that's really going to benefit him. And I think Akers and Henderson's a good combo. I will say I don't like Henderson as much as Akers. I just don't think he's as explosive, especially since those injuries. Um, but I also really want to see Kyron Williams. We'll see what ends up happening. But what do you think about Akers and Hendo? Cam and Daryl got injured. Yeah, it was like the soft tissue injury or something like that. It doesn't seem too serious at all. But yeah, hopefully they can stay healthy. I think he just says at Rams House underscore. I think I actually, for the first time tonight, caught up to the comments. So if you guys have any last comments for me, any last questions, I'll probably be on for another 5 minutes, depending on how many people are commenting and stuff like that. But if you have any questions, anything like that, let me know. But yeah, it's been a great stream, an hour and 10 minutes. We got some super chats in here, which again, I really appreciate that. Got some good engagement. Definitely one of my best streams lately. So I appreciate everybody who's come through here. If you have any more questions, definitely let me know. I want to see if there's anything else to talk about here. I don't think whoops, I don't think so. Also, if you guys have any opinion, I don't know if we're going to be doing another watch party for the Texans game. I believe it's Friday night. I don't know if I'm going to be doing another one. Let me know if you guys want me to or not. I'm like on the fence about doing it, but I'm not sure. At Rams House, follow me for real. I like your vibe. Thank you so much. Are you talking about on Instagram? Oh, because you did at Rams House underscore. Because I actually don't use Instagram. The only social media app that I use other than YouTube is Twitter, and I really only use that just for keeping up on Ram stuff and everything like that. So it's kind of funny because I'm not like a lot of other people my age where they're always on social media or they have accounts stuff like that. I just mainly use Twitter, and that's just to keep up on updates. But if you do have an Instagram, I can definitely follow you, but I just don't really use it that much. BJ says Stafford injury question mark. Oh yeah, so good question there. I think that this has been blown out of proportion really by the media a lot. It just seems like they're trying to find something bad about the Rams and everything like that. So I think it's blown out of proportion. I think he'll be fine, but definitely something to keep an eye on. It's kind of interesting. This injury does usually happen to like people like baseball pitchers and everything. So interesting how it happened to Stafford, but I think he'll be completely fine. And he literally played through like broken backs, he's played through so many different injuries. I think he should be fine. Oh my gosh, and we got another super chat. Thank you so much. JJ 14 Poor Soul Studios is just a super chat legend on this channel. Thank you so much for the super chat. Absolutely do not need to do it. Not a necessity or anything. Definitely just help out the channel for me to be able to save up for a new camera. So thank you so much. I can't thank you enough, JJ 14 Poor Soul Studios, for another super chat. He says, "Get that camera. I appreciate it, man. I'm getting closer and closer. It's a little bit expensive. YouTube does not pay a lot, but definitely not spending any of it, just using all that super chat money, all the YouTube money to get a camera. Thank you so much, man." Let's see. Old Man Ghost says, "I will catch you on the replay. Good night, all." Thank you so much for coming in here, Bruce. Let's see. Neil Gonzalez says, "Thanks, Go Rams." I appreciate it, Neil. Thank you so much for coming in here. I don't know if you're leaving or not, but thank you just for interacting here in the comments and everything, asking questions. I really do appreciate it. Uh, let's see, there's no other NFL team that have more faith in their head coach, GM, and CEO. Oh yeah, again, from top to bottom, we are just stacked, and it just trickles down to the whole organization. I talked about it earlier. I think this could be the best era of Rams football ever. Like, I think that when we look back at this era 50 years later, this will still be the best Rams football ever. So just cherish every moment that we have of it. Oh my gosh, we have another super chat. Thank you so much, Jokers for Poker. I really appreciate it. $20. That's a lot of money. Thank you so much. Again, guys, don't feel the need to do this. I do put it back into the channel, but you guys definitely, by no means, you guys don't need to do this. It just blesses me that I'm able to talk about Rams with you guys, just a bunch of other Rams fans, hang out, and I get paid for doing it. So thank you so much. This will go towards the camera. I really do appreciate it. He says, "Enjoy your content." Thank you so much. You don't know how much that blesses me, man. Let's see. believe Stafford is going to be ready week 1 or something. Yeah, Stafford's already ready. Like, if there was a game tomorrow, Stafford would be ready. He's already trying to play in practices and everything like that. He's trying to participate in this Ram stuff. It's just Sean McVay holding him out. He gets mad that he can't help participate even when he's injured, so no doubt he'll be ready by then. Remember Nelson Spruce, same hype in preseason. Yep, that's what I'm talking about, Jim. Good, that's a good point. I was actually recently watching Hard Knocks. They actually have it on NFL Throwback, the YouTube channel. They're uploading all the different Hard Knocks episodes from the Rams 2016 team with Jeff Fisher. I know it's Jeff Fisher, but it's still Ram stuff, so I've been watching that lately, and I saw the Nelson Spruce preseason and how he was trending everywhere and everything. So definitely brought me back to that. But that's a good point. Nelson Spruce, everybody was talking about him, how he could be the next this person, that person, whatever. And then we don't really know about him anymore now. So definitely got to apply that with Lance McCutcheon. We'll see what he ends up doing. Hopefully he can continue to ball though. I'll follow you now. Just accept me on IG. Okay, I definitely will. Again, I don't really use Instagram. I just really the only thing I use social media for is for keeping up on sports and everything like that. So I'll get back to you on that Rams house. Let's see. If Stafford's elbow was a concern, he wouldn't be playing in camp. I know, right? And he wouldn't be begging to continue to play in camp too. So yeah, I think Stafford's going to be fine. Let's see. So happy for Tutu, and Seattle's going to tank it. Yeah, those are both good points. I'm definitely happy for Tutu. Again, I think the doubt really has helped him step forward and accept, okay, I got to take ownership on these things. I really got to work harder in practice to get better. And we've seen those deep balls that's happened for Tutu Atwell in training camp. That's really exciting me. And I think that the fact that he's going to be wide receiver 3, maybe even 4, is going to help him because there's not going to be as much attention, which will open up the game for him. Let's see. Also, I think I already read that one. Allen Robinson. I'm excited for Allen Robinson too. A Green Substance, welcome back in, man. I haven't seen you in a while. Appreciate you for coming in. He says, Buddy is the future. Let's see. Bowser Zilla says, I just seen Stafford trying to guard Cooper Kupp. I know. I was like, okay, Rams, you don't need to take it that far and show us that Stafford's okay by having him guard Cooper Kupp. Don't want him to roll his ankle. But yeah, that was funny. Let's see. Stafford will be ready. He's just he's just resting his hand a bit for week 1. He will be fine. Yeah, I think it's just that I think it was called like elbow tendonitis or bad elbow tendonitis. It sounds worse than it is. But I think Stafford actually did deal with this last season or stuff worse than this, but it just didn't get out to the media. It just feels like the Rams, like the media loves to pick apart the Rams and everything like that, try to find different little problems. Because let's just face it, we don't really have that many flaws. We aren't involved in any bad storylines or headlines, or our players aren't getting into any like bad stuff like that. So I think they're just trying to find things to pick at. Nelson Spruce got injured and never was the same. Let's see. I think Nelson Spruce was in the XFL. Well, that's actually funny. Rams House says, can't wait to see Bobby Wagner. He's going to stop the run. Yeah, I'm stoked beyond compare. Like I'm so excited. This whole season has me excited. Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp. Like we have so many big playmakers, but the 2 big additions that we made with Allen Robinson and Bobby Wagner, and I'm not going to leave out Troy Hill because I think that was actually a really, really underrated addition that we made. I'm really excited for this season. And Bobby Wagner, you talked about it. He's one of the best run stuffers in the NFL when it comes to being at that middle linebacker position. He knows NFL defenses really, really well, being with how long he's played. And also, I think he has the most tackles in the NFL currently, just total out of any active player right now. I think I'm just going to be really excited to see Bobby Wagner against the 49ers specifically. I've talked about this so many different times. I'm just going to be really excited to see what he's going to be able to do against them because they love to torture us, running up the middle, always being able to beat up at our weakest point with Troy Reader that used to be there. I think Bobby Wagner is going to be leaps and bounds of a difference. And then you talk about him helping coach up Ernest Jones, who is already looking really good. Like, I just can't wait to see it. Media is all about creating drama and clickbaiting headlines, no truth or substance. I agree with you, JJ Ford and Poor Soul Studios. That is why, for me, for like the people that I stay up to date with for like Ram stuff and like the people that I go to for absorbing Rams content and stuff like that that's on YouTube, Rams Showcase, Payo Time, and occasionally Rams House TV. And then Rams Talk, he doesn't really upload anymore, but I really like him. I like to go to people who know our team really, really well, that I can trust, that they know what they're talking about. Because you're right, it's just really about all about creating drama, and the media just loves those clickbaity headlines and then creating drama, everything like that, stirring up people's opinions. And a lot of these shows where it has 2 to 3 people on at one time, a lot of these types of shows, they're just arguing at each other, and then, like, midway through the season, they switch stances on what they're arguing about, argue even more, yell at each other. Like, I just don't see the point in all that. So I just go to stuff that I know, people I trust on YouTube. Again, people I recommend you guys going to subscribe to is Rams House, not Rams House, that's my own channel. You guys are already here. I really like Rams House TV. I really like Pale Time, Rams Showcase, Rams Talk. Those are like my top ones that I watch. Let's see. I think Von Miller is a greedy scumbag. He was hyping running it back and left a few million more. Rams offered him a good amount. He was greedy. Hope he rots in the cold. He's a bum. Oh my gosh. Yeah, not a fan of how Von Miller left us. It is kind of funny though. He's talked about how he's like sitting in the Bills or in the bathroom at the Bills facility, like not sure if he wants to sign the contract. He's already missing LA. So I think honestly the Rams actually did get, like, if we brought Von Miller back, we couldn't have brought in Bobby Wagner or Allen Robinson. So I'll actually take what we ended up acquiring in this offseason over Von Miller. But I don't like how he's like, he promises things. He's kind of lying, and then he's bringing over trying to bring over plays like OBJ stuff. But you know, I wasn't a fan of the way he went out, but glad he was able to help us get a ring. And I do believe Les Snead and McVay will get OBJ back for us with us for sure. Yeah, they're definitely trying. Again, it cracks me up how Sean McVay's like publicly calling him out. Like, if you're out there, Odell, I know you heard that. Like, all that stuff is funny. Miller is trying to recruit OBJ also. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. But, again, I've said this plenty of times throughout the stream. I want OBJ back. I'm hoping he comes back. But if he doesn't, all the best to him. I still think that our Super Bowl chances are extremely high without him. We wouldn't have played this, or we would have played the first half or more of the first half of the season, more than for the first half of the season without him. I think Allen Robinson is really capable of stepping up and being a big contributor for us. I think we'll be fine. But, if he comes back, I'll be absolutely mind blown. And I just can't even imagine having wide receiver core of Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson, OBJ, Van Jefferson, Tutu out. Like, we have depth everywhere. And it's just like crazy high end players. Jim Foster, what happened to Rams talk? He vanished. I don't know. I think it may, like, I can't speak for him. Sometimes when you have a family and like different things to take care of, it's just like that YouTube isn't the top of your list. And I know, speaking from experience myself, I can easily get out of the groove of YouTube if I give myself like a week or 2 week break. I just keep talking myself out of doing videos and stuff like that. Sometimes you can just lose the joy for a little bit. So maybe that happened. I can't speak for him, but he's obviously still alive because he's still on Twitter and stuff like that. But who knows? Hopefully he'll come back. JJ Fording, Poor Soul Studio says, thanks for the live Rams house dinner time for me. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully you have a good dinner. You always stay like throughout the entire stream, giving great insight, great feedback. Thank you again for the super chats, JJ. I really do appreciate it. Hope you have a good dinner. And I think that's actually going to wrap it up for me too, guys. Thank you to all of the people. This is one of the most interactive live streams I've had in a long time. So thank you everybody who was able to come here and talk some Rams. Thank you to everybody who super chatted. I think we got like $30 in super chats, and that really does help in going towards the camera that I'm trying to save up for. So thank you so much, guys. I really cannot tell you how much I appreciate being able to talk Rams and getting paid to do it and just hang out with you guys. So thank you. If you guys have not dropped a like, please do drop a like. I'm going to be on my way out. We got one more comment to read, and then I'll be out. I saw your nice catch on YouTube. You are a good athlete. What do you play? Thank you so much, Jim Foster. Yeah, I play football primarily. I don't play for any school. I don't like do sports for like any organizations or anything. Just like, to say it simply, our family is really big. I am in a family of 10, including my parents. So I have 7 other siblings. Everybody else wanted to do football and everything, but it was just too expensive with the amount of people we had in our family. And so there's like, okay, well, they can't play it. And so I can't really play football for anything professionally, but I play with my brothers all the time. So um, thank you so much for asking me that. Football is my primary sport. And it was actually just last night or a couple of nights ago, I was on the field doing some football with my brothers. But I don't play professionally. I would like to do that and everything, but it's just not in God's plan. But thank you guys so much once again for coming in here, chatting some Rams. I really do appreciate it. Let me know what other videos you want to see from me. That's going to do it for me, though. I'm Rams House. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you for spending some time. Horns up and God bless.